Good morning, Greyhounds, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, Hannah Haerle, and I'm joined this morning by Dr. Chrstopher Plouff. He serves as the Provost and Executive Vice President at the University of Indianapolis. Thank you so much for being here, Chris.
It's my pleasure.
So I understand that the word provost isn't necessarily something that we hear in our daily, use of language. So for those that are watching that may not know exactly what you do, what is a provost?
So I think of describing a provost as the chief academic officer, essentially, for the higher education institutions. So like UIndy, it would be overseeing all academic activities of the institution. So think of the schools and the colleges and all the academic programs, the majors and so forth that come underneath there. It's my responsibility to oversee quality and operations and those sorts of aspects of the educational enterprise for the university.
That's great, thank you. So what do some of your daily job duties include?
Oh, it's varied, as you can imagine. So I work very closely with the deans of each of the colleges and schools, and so we're meeting on a very regular basis around planning for activities for the current semester, and then looking at semesters going forward. Planning around our academic programming, what's working, what's not working, the types of programs and classes that we're going to offer, how we're going to offer those, what kinds of supports that the programs need, so faculty need, what are our students saying, what do they need, and so forth. So meeting those types of meetings in coordination and organization, but then also at the executive level, meeting with the administrative team for the institution, which consists of the president and our chief financial officer and our legal counsel and our student affairs directors as well. And so we meet on a regular basis as well and plan activities more globally for what the institution needs going forward.
That's great. So it seems like you're one of the men with the answers here. That's awesome.
Possibly.
We're glad to have you on.
Yes.
So before this, you were at Grand Valley State University, correct?
I was, for 25 years.
25 years. Were you the provost there as well?
I was the interim provost the last year that I was there. I had worked in the provost's office for the 5 years prior to that as an associate vice president, and I had responsibilities there for planning, assessment, and accreditation for the university. And so worked on strategic planning activities overall, and then also assessing the learning outcomes for our programs and overseeing that process. And then all the accreditations. And accreditations are usually external bodies that accredit certain programs through standards that need to be met in order for students to sit for licensure within a degree or within a state after they graduate. So I was overseeing those aspects. My disciplinary background is engineering, and so I was an engineering faculty member prior to that. And during that time frame, when I was in the School of Engineering, I taught a variety of classes, although I focused primarily on freshman and sophomore level classes. I really loved working with and teaching at the foundation level for engineering. My disciplinary background is civil environmental engineering. And I was the program director for our product design and manufacturing program there for a couple of years, and then also the last couple of years prior to moving to the provost's office, I was the director of the School of Engineering.
Well, that's an extensive and impressive resume.
Thank you.
UIndy's very lucky to have you. So that is a long time to be at Grand Valley State University. Why the change?
Well, it was an opportunity that I saw where I could take the skills that I had developed and honed, I think, there for the prior years and really make an impact and a difference at a new institution. And so I wasn't looking broadly for something new, but I was just kind of keeping my eye open for interesting and really a place where I think that I was aligned with the mission and values of the institution, that I might be able to come in and be a part of a team that could look at the next steps and phases forward for the institution. And UIndy was one of those places, and I quickly was interested and pursued the opportunity when I saw the provost position that was open here. And I'm fortunate that it was able to lead me to being in this role today.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, and like I said, UIndy's very lucky to have you. So, and I know you said a little bit of why you chose UIndy. So, were you looking specifically at Indianapolis to be here? Have you ever lived here before?
No, not specifically Indianapolis, but I've been to, visited, and been here for professional purposes a number of times, and really enjoyed the city. In the area. It's still the Midwest. I'm a Midwesterner by heart and by my background. I've lived in Michigan my whole life prior to coming to Indiana, so I'm only 8 months into being a Hoosier, but learning what that means and so forth, and really enjoying it, really enjoying getting to know the city, the area, and the state for that matter, because I've, again, just not spent a lot of time here, but the area was attractive to me, but really it was the institution, and understanding and knowing what this place was, and having been connected to a few people who were a part of the UIndy community prior to me looking into this position, and all had wonderful things to say about the institution. And so as I looked at it further, I really decided that this was something that was could be a good fit for me.
Well, Indianapolis is a great place to be. I'm not originally from here, but I've been here all 4 years of my college experience, and I really enjoy it. What's your favorite place or thing about Indianapolis so far?
Oh boy, still exploring a lot of things, but I really like the variety of food. I'm not really a foodie, I would say, but do like to try new things, and it's been a real revelation in terms of the types of places and restaurants that are here and the options that you have. Really enjoy the entertainment and sports sort of aspect to that. It wasn't something I had where I came from. Having some professional teams here is new to me, and having those nearby, and I've been able to take in a couple of those through the fall. I got to go to a preseason Colts game, and I've been to a couple of Pacers games, and those have been fun, and that's really neat to be part of the immediate community that has those as part of it. Yeah,
that's great. I know we talked a little bit before the show about how your son is coming to visit. How's your family adjusting to being here?
Good. My wife and I are making that adjustment. We purchased a home here back around the Halloween time frame, so we're still kind of over the winter months here adjusting and moving in, and that's been interesting, getting to know the neighborhoods and so forth. I've got 2 adult children, one who's graduating from university here this year, and then one who graduated 3 years ago, and they're currently in New York, and then my son is in Michigan finishing up his degree there.
That's awesome. So thanks for giving me some of that background information. I think it's great that you've come to sit down with me because, like I said, it seems like you're one of the men with the answers. So I am just curious, just 2 days ago, interim president Phil Terry sent out a survey to all students which asked about student experiences regarding the general education core curriculum. What's the reasoning behind wanting student input in this all of a sudden?
I don't know if it's all of a sudden. It's certainly something where we're continually trying to get student input on all the academic and co-curricular work that we're doing as an institution. And so, this is really about how are we positioning ourselves now with our current students to best serve them and their needs, as well as looking forward to how are we attracting new students to the institution. So it's really about getting more information and understanding students' interests and needs. And I believe there are going to be additional surveys that are sent out around a number of topics that impact the student experience on campus to get that input so that we can know that we're providing the best experience that we can for our students, but also for our current students and for our future students.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome that, of course, administration wants input. It can be very valuable. So there's been some talk on campus about changing the curriculum. What can we expect to see with this?
In terms of the general education curriculum? The discussion there is really around looking at, is it providing the outcomes that we're looking for as a core group of knowledge, skills, and abilities that a student would have as an undergraduate graduating from UIndy. And so the general education core should be able to do that. And so we're really analyzing and evaluating, and it's not really us, it's the faculty. The faculty are the primary, have the primary responsibility for the curriculum. And they are reviewing, do we have the right curriculum currently? Is it the right size and scope for what we want students to be able to get from their educational foundation as part of their UIndy education? Because again, that supplements what we do for our majors, right? It's something that all UIndy undergraduate students get. And we want to know if that's working. But then also, as I mentioned, as it's becoming more and more competitive to recruit students to campuses, that's one of those things that we feel is an area that we need to evaluate and see, is it helping us with students who would transfer into the institution, who are bringing in credits beforehand, sometimes from their high school, maybe through dual credit, or from AP credit, and those sorts of things that could apply towards their general education requirements and help us in recruiting high quality students to the institution.
Absolutely. UIndy does have some really amazing and unique opportunities provided here on campus. Some of our team members here at UIndy TV actually went out the other day and spoke with students about their experiences with spring term, lecture performance, or LP credits, and first year seminar, also known as FYS. So let's take a look at that.
What are your thoughts of first year seminars and how are they benefits?
First year seminars are great. I mean, the one I had was enjoyable because all we did was watch movies, I guess, and just relate them to like family experiences. So, I mean, I think it's just learning different stuff. I don't know.
So I took FYS 182, which was Culture, Healthcare, and You. I did not enjoy it, mostly because the professor was not great, but yeah. I don't know. I don't really have any strong feelings one way or the other.
For my FYS, I took Love, Death, and Religion. It was cool. It covered like 2 or 3 gen eds. However, it did not cover the religion gen ed, which I thought was really funny because it was a Love, Death, and Religion class. I feel like the purpose of FYS are to cover a bunch of the gen eds. So like for me, I enjoyed mine just because it covered a bunch of them, but it didn't cover religion, and that was upsetting.
Okay. I think first year seminar is awful, and I had to take a whale class, and I will never recover from it.
You didn't like it?
No.
I think they're kind of tedious. I mean, I'm sure they're helpful, but like to me it was kind of tedious, I'm not gonna lie, after a couple of days of it. So, but I'm not gonna bash on it or nothing like that.
Which one did you take?
First year seminar?
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, do not remember. Yeah.
That's right. What are your thoughts of LP events?
I actually don't think they're useful at all. They're actually a waste of time. Most of the ones that you try to do either do not work with your schedule or they're at random times of the days where people usually have classes. So I feel like it's impossible to go to one.
Personally, I don't find them a necessity. I think they're a cool thing to have, like, if people want to go to them. I don't really like that we're kind of forced to go.
Very silly. We are college students. Most of us have jobs, sports, other, responsibilities, and making us go to 20 of these is like a little bit unreasonable for some people, especially like commuters who like aren't on campus all the time and like have to find time out of their day to, go to these events, especially if they work, have other responsibilities, athletes, people who work, people who are athletes and work. It's a lot of adding up for people to do.
What are your thoughts of spring terms?
Honestly, I don't think those are, I mean, traveling abroad I think is useful, but then like spring terms that are at the school, I don't think those are very helpful because like I could be doing other stuff in my time over the summer.
Okay.
Like enjoying myself.
I think it shouldn't be necessarily a necessity, but I think it's a cool thing that's offered. And I like how they like pay for your housing and your meal plan longer for it. But yeah, I really don't think it's necessary.
Have you taken one yet?
I have not. I'm taking the extra credit hours because I don't want to be here for 3 more weeks.
Spring term. It's actually fun. I did woodworking for spring term, and we got to build a little experiment, which was really cool. So,
I mean, the spring term class I took was fun, but it was just like photography. So we just had to take pictures and like make little cards out of the pictures. But I don't know. They're fun classes for the most part. I know a bunch of other schools that do things like it.
It was very fun and choose something that you're interested in. And I chose farming, and it was very fun.
And then last and final question, do you know what a provost is?
No, I do not. Can you explain?
I can't.
I have no clue.
No.
No.
a provost? No, I have no idea what that is. No.
Okay. Still don't have an answer to that. All right. Clearly no one knows what a provost is.
What's a provost?
It's like someone who makes decisions high up.
It's like a higher up in the school.
And that's why I asked earlier to
Absolutely.
explain what it is, just because it's not something that we use in our daily language. So thank you for doing that.
And I would say that's not even true just with students. I mean, there are a lot of people in academia. It's more of an academic term that, like I said, instead of using businessy terms like chief academic officer. So it's funny that
Absolutely.
people don't know.
Absolutely, but that's why you're here.
Right.
And I think there was a lot of mixed opinions in that video,
Right.
so we will definitely get into talking about that right when we come back.
Stroud, the obvious pick for Steichen and the Colts.
Ohio State quarterbacks, we know they don't
I mean,
win.
come
How many
on, he's
national
got the
titles
whole offense
has
handed to
Joe
him. Check out Last Call. We've got all the sports info you need from around the nation and right here on campus. Plenty of UIndy sports.
College football and college basketball.
The NFL.
The NBA.
MLB.
Don't forget about motorsports.
And I'll give you all the gambling picks you need to know to make some money right here on Last Call, Mondays at 4 o'clock on YouTube.
The world's a crazy place, and it's only getting crazier. And it seems like no one wants to talk about it. So I'm going to. That's why I created Real Talk, a roundtable discussion show where each week I bring on different guests to talk about hot button issues in society. Join me every week to get your questions answered, Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
Hey, it's Giselle here on 88.7 WICR.
88.7 The Diamond, the only jazz and classical station in Indianapolis, completely led by the students of the University of Indianapolis. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn app, FM radio, HD radios, or even on our website at wicronline.org, a different kind of public radio.
Thanks for coming back here with us. So as we just watched before, some of these students sharing their opinions on first year seminar, spring term, LP credits. I will say I am one of those special cases where I came in with a lot of credits from high school, so I actually did not have to take a spring term or LP credits. And I did have to take first year seminar, and my experience with that was, you know, so probably about average with what those students were saying. And so I will say I was a little bit shocked just at some of the negative comments about it. Not necessarily because they're invalid or anything like that, but just for the fact of, I think that these are very unique opportunities that UIndy offers. And I think they can be valuable if people take advantage of them. And I would argue that some of the people were agreeing with that as well. What is some of the feedback that you've received in the past regarding these things?
I think it's similar to what we heard from those segments from the students, is that it's mixed. There are students who really appreciate and really like the experiences they get, and they really help them to acclimate. The intention for those, especially with first-year students, is to help them make a good transition from their high school to the university, and to have sort of an experience that is not necessarily connected, because we don't have, as you heard, there are different types of FYSs and so forth. But it gives students an opportunity to integrate into the campus in different and unique ways that are unique to UIndy. And so some of them sort of mesh really well, it feels like, if they're picked the right way and students have the right topic and the right connection with the faculty member and their classmates in those areas, and sometimes they don't. And so the input that I've heard has been just like that. It's been a bit mixed. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at. When we talk about the general education core, those are aspects of that core. And so pieces of the things that we're looking at now, getting feedback from students and so forth, is around those exact items to say, are these the right pieces? And we want to do that in a way that still keeps the history and the unique aspect of what University of Indianapolis is. And so how do we do those? How do we do them better? So that students all have, or at least the majority. It's pretty hard to get every single student to have the best possible experience, but to have the most students have the best experience and feel like they're growing and becoming a bigger part of the University of Indianapolis community.
And I really appreciate you saying that, these things are important to administrators to find out as well. And I assume that that's why, one of the reasons you guys sent out that survey a couple of days ago. What do you see as the future of spring term, LP, and FYS? Are these things safe?
I don't know the answer to that yet. I would be surprised if they went away completely. The requirement aspect of them might change. So currently the fact that they are required as part of the general education core may change. We're not sure yet. That's still being evaluated and looked at. So I think that things like spring term will still exist. What kind of form it will exist in, what's required, and for whom it's required is going to probably be different. But we don't know really the outcome of that yet. And so we're trying to really get all the good information that we can.
So I know we discussed a little bit earlier, interim president Phil Terry, emphasis on the word interim. How is the search for a new president going?
It's going well, from my understanding that there will be some communication to campus yet this semester, indicating that there will hopefully be a new president that will be in place. Everything that I've been told has been that that's well on its way, and there could be news sooner than we think. I would imagine certainly by the end of the semester, but even perhaps by the end of the month.
What are some of the characteristics that you look for in candidates?
The president role has really changed over the years in higher education. It's really changed. It used to be, this internally focused person who was overseeing all the operations and made sure that everything kind of flowed and worked well together. In a lot of ways, that's kind of been transitioned over to the provost, to that position, and that really is kind of seeing internally how things are happening at campus. More and more, what you look for in a president are those people who can, one, still bring the campus community together and lead us forward with a shared vision of where we need to go, but then also be this outward-focused person who can help connect us to the community, both locally, regionally, nationally, and help with fundraising opportunities, helping bring resources, people, and the community to the campus. Again, connecting aspects of the greater community to the campus community and helping to integrate that more fully. And so really over time, as I've seen it, a presidential role at a university has really changed more from a primarily internal, a little bit of external, to sort of shared, and then now it's becoming more and more that primary external focus.
I will say, as I was doing research and preparing for this interview, I noticed that UIndy administration is seemingly dominated by men. So just out of curiosity, I have to ask, are we considering a female for the presidency?
Yes, there were certainly a variety of diverse candidates that were part of the pool. I was not, I have to say right up front, I was not part of the interview pool or the selection process for that. So I can't speak definitively about that. I wasn't on the committee. But I do know that they have candidates that came from a lot of diverse backgrounds, both ethnically as well as gender.
It can seem sometimes like positions such as these are a bit of a revolving door. People constantly coming in and leaving a short time later. Can we expect this again, and how will it be different this time?
Well, I think traditionally across higher education, I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but I think the tenure of a university president or a college president these days is somewhere on the orders of 3 to 5 years, which is not that long, it feels like to many people. At the University of Indianapolis, that's not been the case, to our credit. Past President Manuel was here for 10 years, I believe, before he left. And so interim President Terry is there to kind of bridge the gap till we get the next fully named president. But historically, there have actually been very few presidents here at UIndy, and they've had long tenures. I mean, they haven't all been 10 years, but many of them have been 10 plus years, which is a very long time actually in the academic world for a university president.
Awesome. So
I think that speaks to the institution, by the way.
Yeah.
That a person wants to and ends up staying here for as long as they do, because in many places they're there 3 to 5 years and then move on to something else.
I think we can all agree that we're looking forward to having another hopefully long-term president, and hopefully keeping you on board as well, because it seems like you're doing a great job. So,
thank you.
According to nces.ed.gov, at private nonprofit four-year institutions, average tuition fees were $37,600 in 2020 and 2021, which is about 19% higher than they were in 2010 and 2011, which was $31,700. Why do these things happen? I'm aware of inflation, but it seems that each year the price of tuition increases. So how much of this is just a natural raise in tuition versus an intentional hike of prices?
It's really to keep current with the costs of providing the education. Here, and as well as most places, that rise is not typically the amount over 1 year is what you might have indicated there. It's typically in that 2 to 3 to 4% increase, which if you look at the rates of inflation, you're looking at rates that are typically, and more recently, have been much higher than that. Higher education has actually had a hard time in the last 2 to 3 years because of the very fast-moving inflationary rates nationally to keep up. The cost of things keeps going up. The cost of heating our buildings. As an example, we just had. That wasn't a surprise. We knew it was coming. We just didn't know the scale of it. But a $750,000 increase in electricity costs for the campus. That happened over 1 year. Those don't get made up overnight in terms of coming up with that type of money. And so when things increase, they have to increase. You know, just like you would expect and others expect, you know, to keep, and we want our employees here, you know, our faculty and staff to be satisfied and love and do the work that they're doing. But nobody wants to stay at the same pay rate year after year after year. Everyone wants to see, because their cost of living goes up just like everybody else does as well. So there are usually very modest, sometimes they haven't even been modest more recently, increases in faculty and staff wages. So we have to keep, you know, up to level with those as well. And so it is the type of thing where it would be great if we could keep things static, and there are ways that we can look at that potentially as we go forward. But really, the types of increases are really to keep in line with the inflationary costs of things as they rise around us.
And I know it's not as just simple as, you know, placing a number on a bill and sending it out. I understand that there's a lot that goes into it on the business side, as well as, you know, just basic academia side as well. I bring this next question up just because it has been talk of students around campus, and, you know, as a broadcaster and a journalist, it's my duty to bring it to you as well. So from a student perspective, it seems like, you know, we are getting the short end of the stick when it comes to helping with university funding. You know, when we talk about basically students get a bill in the mail with a higher tuition rate, and I know we just talked about so many things going into that, but I'm asking you, you know, I know there's a delicate balance in this in the business aspect, but it's a tough task. But is it fair that students are just getting higher prices attached to our tuition bill, and how are you trying to find a balance in these things?
Yeah, I don't know if fair is the right word that I would use. Like you said, sometimes it's out of necessity. But certainly, our first and foremost, and it's not just us as senior administration, but our board of trustees as well, have very in-depth, ongoing, long-term conversations around the cost of our tuition and fees here at the institution. Nobody takes that lightly. It is certainly our desire to have the best tuition that we can for our students, to cover the cost of what we have, of the quality of education that we have here at UIndy, and we feel that does that. Certainly, that's almost never going to be totally satisfying to those who are involved. You know, students who have to have a potentially increased tuition or bill from one year to the next. And so I completely understand that. I can assure you that those are very in-depth conversations and ongoing conversations that we have on a regular basis to do whatever we can possible to reduce costs. We're always trying to look at how we increase efficiencies at the institution. We're doing a lot of activities around that currently, and looking at what are those things that we can do and do better at a less cost, so that we can keep our tuition at a modest rate, or to lower it if we could possibly do that, because we don't want our students to have additional financial burden beyond what they can handle or what they need to have.
I appreciate your insight in that. I've been on campus 4 years now. I'm a senior, will graduate in May. Something that has consistently been a topic of discussion among my peers is the prices of meal plans. So we did some math before this. For the 14 swipes per week meal plan, which is about $2,848 per term in a 15-week term, that's about $13.56 per swipe, when the swipes are only actually worth $7.50. That's quite the hike. Are you aware of this, first of all?
Yes. You know, we work with an external vendor in terms of the food services that we have and so forth, and so that has to the contracts have to account for you know, paying for the services that we provide here as well. It's actually more costly and more difficult to have your own food service in-house. So those are things that we look at regularly. But I can tell you that there are things that are happening currently to look at how we're doing with our food plans for students. We hear that regularly. We're always trying to make sure that we have the best options available at the best cost for our students. And there is going to be a revamp, for instance, in Schweitzer this summer of the dining hall area. New opportunities for food there, because we've heard that feedback from students. And I believe there will also be, you know, looking at what the plans are for students as well, and what the cost of those are. So there'll be some additional options there as well.
I think one of the issues that comes with this is, And I understand this may not be your actual view, but you're here and you're under the interim president, so I must ask.
Sure.
The pricing of food on campus does not seem to align with the swipes and the money that's available within the swipes. It almost forces students to swipe more than once. I know, for example, in the Mexican food in streets, the extras like the sour cream, guac, salsa, those all seem to be $2, which is higher than what I even remember it being my freshman year. And again, it just makes students seem to have to swipe at least twice, which is thus, causing them to lose a swipe, lose the extra money if they can't fill that swipe. So are you aware of that? What can we do about that?
Yeah, that's something I can look into. I'll be honest, the food area doesn't fall directly underneath me, and so I don't have some of those details at hand. But I know that sounds like it's something that is an additional burden on a student that doesn't seem like it's something that we would want to have.
Yeah.
So it's certainly something I can bring back to look at and discuss, further. Again, we want to look at holistically, what are we doing for students and their food service, and how can we make it better, more affordable, better options, and we're always looking at that and want to make sure that we can do the best we can on behalf of our students.
Absolutely. I just have one more question for you. Less people were having children during the recession, and therefore a population cliff is coming. In just 2 years, those children are going to be of college age, and there will be about 10% less students overall going to school. How do you expect this to affect the university?
It's affecting higher education in general, and it's certainly going to affect us at UIndy. We're doing everything in our ability to make sure that we're positioning our academic offerings going forward in a way that will be most attractive to students, because we know it's going to become even more and more competitive. That's something that's been known in the higher education world for a while, because as you mentioned, we can predict that we're going to have less students who are looking for higher education. An even bigger aspect of this problem, though, is that we're seeing more and more nationally, even more so in Indiana, less percentage of students who are graduating from high school going to college, which we think is really problematic. And so there certainly are needs for students and young adults to go into lots of different types of areas. We have needs in a lot of different aspects of our society, but it seems like it's coming at primarily the expense of those who are going on for higher education. And so, we are seeing these drops, but then furthermore, we're seeing even additional drops in those who are choosing to go. So lesser numbers to begin with, and then lesser percentage of those students also wanting to go on to higher ed. We're seeing even a larger drop in general with men. So we're seeing even a larger drop off in percentage of men who are going on for higher education. And so that's going to have an impact on not only UIndy, but higher education in general, and then what we're going to see in our society going forward in terms of those who are prepared to do the jobs of tomorrow. And so we're continually trying to look at what we're doing and what we're offering for programs to help make sure that we attract the best and the brightest and in the right numbers that make UIndy community what UIndy community is. And so we like the size that we're at. We'd like to maintain that, certainly, but we have to keep analyzing and looking at, do we have the right set of programs, and when we're doing that, do we need to add new programs that will help and make students better prepared for the jobs of tomorrow, as we mentioned, and their lives and their careers of tomorrow, but then also looking at, how will we support them appropriately within the context of the numbers of students that we have, and like you said, having the right size and scale of student body here that's matched with our faculty and staff.
Absolutely, and these are important conversations, and I can't thank you enough for coming on today and discussing this with me. Again, I have here Dr. Chrstopher Plouff, Provost at UIndy. I'm Hannah Haerle.